All right, so in our last video, we saw how seventh chords generally behave the same way the dominant seventh chord does. This works for major seventh chords, for minor seventh chords, for minor seventh chords with flat fifths, or half diminished seventh chords as they're called. There is one type of seventh chord that kind of throws a monkey wrench into everything with a figured bass system, and we're going to look at that right now. We talked about it in written theory, and we talked about the diminished seventh chord, fully diminished seventh chord, which is the sol-lay substitute. We're going to pay just a little bit of attention to that really quickly in aural theory as well. So what we're talking about here is I'm talking about, let's set up a T6-5 chord. We talk about color substitutes, really. T6-5-3. So what is in a T6-5-3 above that T? Well, upper third is re, upper fifth is fa, upper sixth is sol. Now what I can do if I want to change the color, if I want to darken the sound and really have a lot of drama, this would normally resolve T do, re do, fa mi, sol sol. I can make things really dark and interesting by not doing sol, but by substituting it in with lay instead. Keep everything else exactly the same. Now, what I've done is I got rid of the 6 above the bass, and I swapped it with a 7. And what I have here is this does not behave exactly like the 7-5-3 chord does that we just learned about in the previous thing. It can, if I'm in the circle of fifth sequence, I can totally jump down from the T to the mi and do a 7-5-3 to a mi 5-3. More common, however, this is a substitute for the 6-5-3, and it behaves exactly the same way as the 6-5-3 does. It resolves up by step to the do 5-3. That's how I would expect this chord to behave. And that happens for all of the different versions of our dominant seventh chord. So, if I normally have a re 6-4-3 chord, re, fa, sol, and T, it would normally resolve down by step to a do 5-3. Again, I can do that sol-lay swap. And that means instead of having a fourth, we have a fifth. But notice it's not behaving the way a 6-5-3 chord would behave. Normally we'd expect a 6-5-3 chord to go up by step to 5-3. This is not a real 6-5-3 chord. It behaves like a 6-4-3 chord. It steps down to the 5-3. Same thing on the fa 6-4-2. We would expect that to step down to the mi 6-3, fa sol, T and re. Swap that sol for a lay. Do that little change. It gets extra colorful. And now instead of having a 2, I have a 3 there. But it's a 6-4-3 would be behaving like a 6-4-2 instead of like a 6-4-3 chord. And the way you can recognize this is in all of these chords where I have T and fa and re and lay. What we have here, I suppose I should have gone T, re, fa, lay to stack the thirds a little bit better. We'll do that. What we have here is this creates a fully diminished seventh chord. And just like we learned that diminished seventh chords, because they have that false fifth, the T's 5-3 doesn't behave like a 5-3 chord. It's not a stable chord, it's a dissonance. And it was really a variation on the T6-5-3 chord, just taking out the 6 of the chord. All of these chords here, if there's a diminished seventh, and you can recognize it because they're all minor thirds. All minor thirds. So if I'm going along in a piece of music and I see a C, and I see like an E flat, I see an F sharp, I see an A, I'm looking going C to E flat, that's a minor third. A, F sharp A, that's a minor third. A, C, minor third. They're all minor thirds, except for the augmented second between the E flat and the F sharp, which is enharmonically equivalent to a minor third. I immediately know that what I'm talking about here is a diminished seventh chord. Being able to recognize diminished seventh chords when they come up is a very key skill. It has a distinctive sound to it as well. All of these dissonant chords have distinctive sounds to them. If you train your ear, you will hear the dissonances. And so when I see this, in this case, let's see what I got here. C to E flat is a third. C to A, that's a sixth. C to F sharp is a fourth. Plus 4, 3. Okay, so I see a 6, 4, 3 here, but I know it's going to behave not like a C 6, 4, 3 chord here. I know it's going to be behaving like a 6, 5, 3 chord. And I would see this not this way, you know? I wouldn't see it this way. I would see this as a, I can already tell, I've written it wrong enharmonically. Yeah. Anyway, I would expect it to behave not as a T643, but as a T653. In this case, I would want it to be behaving in the key of D flat major. So I realized I wrote this wrong. I would need to have like a G flat and an A. That would actually be B double flat, because this would be resolving to D flat minor. We're going to talk about fun resolutions. Fun resolutions of diminished seventh chords next year when we talk about enharmonic modulation, because the way that I can really quickly and immediately pivot this from an F sharp to G flat, an A or a B double flat, lets me do all sorts of fun things here. Well, I should have done a better example. Let's do a better example. I should have put a C sharp in the bass, so I'm not behaving in the key of D double flat, because a C would be a T in the key of, you know, right, D flat. So let's put something else up here. Let's go C sharp and let's go an E, and we'll do a C sharp 6, 4, 3, but it'll be diminished 6, 4, 3. So everything will be minor thirds between them. So C sharp E, C sharp up a fourth. I'm going to want the augmented second from E to F double sharp. I'm just having all sorts of fun with crazy things here, aren't I? And C sharp up the sixth would be the same as down a minor third. Down a minor third from C sharp is A sharp. I keep picking terrible examples. I'm so sorry. Let's enharmonically pivot all of these. Get out double sharp, and let's do not a C sharp 6, 4, 3, but let's just do like a D flat. How about we just make everything non-crazy flats here? Let's pick something that isn't flats, sharps all over the place. Oh, I love doing these videos live, because I don't think things out in advance. I end up with messy examples. Okay, eraser. This is the last video I'm making this semester. Can you tell I'm tired? I can. So, let's put a D in the bass. Let's put a D in the bass. And we'll do an F. And we'll do an A flat. And we'll do a B. There we go. All nice minor thirds. This is a D. That's a third. That's a fifth. D to B. Of course, is our sixth. But recognizing that this is a diminished, I'm going to think of it not as behaving as a 6-5-3 chord. I would think of it instead as behaving as a chord substitute for the 6-4-3 chord. So I already know it's going to resolve down by step to my C 5-3. Now look at the resolutions, and I would be this would immediately, be re do. This would be in the key of C. This would be a fa. Fa, mi, and I'm using my zons now, right? Ti, do, sol, la, of course, once resolved to sol, and using all of my different zons to resolve the voices properly, re, do, fa, mi, la, sol, ti, do. And anytime you're using a fully diminished seventh chord, think of how your different zons resolve, and it will work every time. It's just a neat color substitute for the dominant seventh, diminished seventh related to each other, and just recognize all those minor thirds, and you won't have a problem with them when they show up. And they will show up in many contexts, as we'll talk about in the fall. I'll see you then.